want to talk about the system of modes, what modes mean. And also I want to address that objection that I often get. And the objection that I get very often is, especially in gypsy jazz, is this music is arpeggios. This music is not scales. So why would I want to learn scales instead of focusing on the arpeggios? Right, it's not entirely true, first of all, that this music is only arpeggios. We could say mainly arpeggios, we could say, but it's definitely not a 100% arpeggios. It's actually maybe even, we could say 70 or 65% arpeggios and 35% scales. But anyways, the reason why I'm focusing on scales so much is not to necessarily so that you use the entire scale when you improvise. So where do scales come into play? The scales will help you with two things there. One is connecting the dots, because yes, you're using arpeggios, but you can also do a bit of an arpeggio and a bit of a scale to connect things. You don't just want to play. Right? So it is actually a mixture. So you're within that C major box, and maybe you're going for a C major 7 arpeggio. But see how I could play around with the arpeggio there, adding notes of the scale, because I know my map, and my map is and so that allows me to, instead of a regular where scales help you, connecting things. The other thing where modes help you is learning about target notes. So if we take a 2-5-1 in the key of C, D minor 7, G7, and C major. How do we harmonize a C major scale? C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B half diminished. That's it. So all of the 3 chords that I played in a 2-5-1, they all belong to the key of C, to the C major scale. That's why they are called a 2-5-1. Because it's the 2nd, 5th, and 1st chord of the scale. And one might argue, why do I need to learn D Dorian, G Mixolydian, and C major if it's the same scale? Because arguably, yes, if you have a 2-5-1, you could just think of that map, C major map. But where we go wrong here is if we do not treat each chord separately, we will lose control of the particular sound that we can create on each chord, and also our improvisation will sound aimless, and we will make very poor choices. For example, it is true that all of these chords just use the notes of the C major scale. That's true. But then again, there are some notes that work best on a D minor 7 of that scale rather than on the C. And a good example would be the note C itself. So if I'm on a C minor 7 and I go for this C, especially on the same octave as the root, we end up with this sound. See, something is off. Or if I go for a G note, if I play the G note over D minor 7, especially on the same octave as the root, one octave up sounds good. It's an 11th, right? But then again, that G will sound very different than if we play it on a G7. So every note will have a particular color depending on what chord we play it on. And also, what's the other reason for learning scales and learning modes? That each mode will have some key notes, some target notes. And those target notes are the notes that make that mode sound the way it does. And so by targeting those notes, by knowing the scale, we get to know where those notes are for each mode. And then we go and play those on each of the chords, and we will give our improvisation the right direction. So there is a very interesting way of laying down all the modes so that we can see and learn which are the keynotes for each mode. So the first mode is called Aeolian. This is just the major scale itself. And it is a scale with this formula, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because the major scale is actually the mother of all scales, and it is what is used as reference for the formula of other scales. So that's why a major scale, we just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the second mode, what is a mode? As we were talking about with Jean Benoit, we're playing that scale, but we're starting from a different degree of the scale, and we make that our new root. So then the second mode is Dorian. And so here we have D Dorian. It's basically the same notes, but my root is different. And so we also end up with a different formula. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Why flat 3? Well, because again, we said that we always use the major scale as reference, correct? And so if we compare this to a D major scale, a D major scale goes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. So the formula for the Dorian, which is D Dorian, instead of being D major, which is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, which being a major scale, it would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We will call it 1, 2, flat 3, because if we compare it to the major scale that starts on the same root as the scale that we're analyzing in this very moment, the third is a semitone below what it should be. This is D, E, F sharp, a major scale, and this is D, E, F. That's why the formula that we end up with is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Now the third mode is Phrygian. It's a flamenco scale, right? It's used in flamenco a lot. So this work that we're doing right now on the formulas is really important. So what would be the formula for Phrygian? The way we get the formula is by comparing it to the major scale that starts on the same note. This is an E major scale. So then what would be the formula of Phrygian if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Now this is one way of looking at these formulas. The other way of looking at them would be flat, for example, flat 3 means that if we compare it to the major scale that starts on the same root, the third has been flattened, and that's why we call it a flat 3. We can think about this in terms of intervals as well. A flat 3 is a tone and a half. and a major 3 is 2 tones. That's why between D and F there's a tone and a half. That's why we call it a major 3. Sorry, a flat 3, and so on. But anyway, this is a good way of looking at it. So we've got Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian. Then we've got Lydian. It's F. And so the formula for this would be 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7. Because an F major scale has a B flat. Right, the F major scale would be F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. And so B compared to a B flat is being raised by a semitone. So the fourth is a semitone higher. Then we finally have Mixolydian. G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And again, if we compare it to a G major scale, it gives us this. Then we've got a Aeolian, like this, which is another name for natural minor. And then Aeolian gives us this. Now, this is very important for future reference. I'll mention it now so that hopefully you have a bit of a head start when the time comes. I will go through this again, but this is the natural minor scale or the relative minor scale of C. Just like this formula is used as reference, so is this formula when it comes to comparing this scale to other minor scales. So we say that a natural or normal minor scale has a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7th. But then when we talk about the melodic minor scale, for example, we just say it's a minor scale with a major 6 and a major 7th. And that tells us it's 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I'm thinking of the harmonic minor scale, I might say it's just like a minor scale with a natural 7 or major 7th, same thing. And so 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. Anyways, very important scale, this one. And then we have Locrian. B, C, D, E, F, G, A. By the way, Locrian is the scale that you play on half diminished chords. So again, for future reference, if you have B half diminished, it's in the key of C major. So you can play a C major scale on it, starting on B. So 251 with a B half diminished. We always get so lost when it comes to these half diminished chords. It's just a C major scale. And then E7. Anyways, and so the Locrian looks like this: 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5. Flat 6, flat 7. So why all this? Where are we going with this? There is a way of writing these modes down in a different order that takes us from the most major to the least major scale out of all of these. So what would be the most major scale here? It is Lydian, because it is a major scale and with a raised fourth, so it sounds like super major. It's like a mega major sound. So we will put Lydian at the top. Then what is the second most major? Aeolian, very good. So this already gives us a very important piece of information, which is, what is the note that makes Lydian Lydian? This, obviously. So the whole work that we are doing on learning scales is not to get you guys to play the scale up and down all the time. But it's so, especially when music becomes fast, and this music does get very fast. we know what to target. So if I'm playing F Lydian, I will be playing it over an F major chord when F is the fourth. So if I'm in the key of C and there is an F major chord, I will be playing Lydian there. I will be focusing on this. All of me is in the key of C, and then the turnaround starts with an F major. So you're not playing an F major scale there, you're playing F Lydian. Or you can focus on that B note, which is the sharp 4, over that F. The sharp 4 is the key note of your Lydian. So when do we have Lydian again? Where, well, Autumn Leaves. Let's play Autumn Leaves in the key of G. So Autumn Leaves in the key of G. We'll start with an A minor. So see what happens there. A minor, D7, G, C major. So the sequence chords wise is 2, 5, 1, 4. So on this C major, I'm in the key of G, but there is a C major chord there. I will be thinking Lydian. What does it mean to be thinking Lydian? It doesn't mean I will play C Lydian all the time. It means I know what the target note is. It is the sharp 4 of that scale. And so I will be aiming at playing an F sharp over the C major in Autumn Leaves. D7. D7, G. See what I've done? C, F sharp, C, the root and the sharp 4 of the Lydian scale. See, it sounds really well there. So A minor, D7, G, C major. And this happens all the time. For Sephora, in the B section for Sephora is the same chords actually. It's in the key of G, and we go A minor, D7, G, C. So 2, 5, 1, 4. Again, I will be hitting on that F sharp like a hammer. It's the best note there. I will show you on the backing track. And again, see how studying modes and scales is so that you can understand what notes to go for. So the more we know, the simpler and the more effective we can play. We don't want to know a lot of things to play more complicated things, although there is a space for that as well. I like learning things to simplify what I do and just play the right things. So let's take a look at this. See the B section, A minor, B7, G major, C major. On that C major 7, I will go and hit that F sharp. minor. It was there. The F sharp on the C major. Sounds great. That's what my C. It helps us highlight the movement of the harmony by looking at the right target note. So moving on, then after that, what is the scale which is just a little bit less major than Aeolian? It will be Mixolydian. See again now what changed? This changed. And so this is what I will focus on when soloing. And so on. So if I've got D minor 7, G7, C, G, it will be G Mixolydian on G, and the flat seventh is this note, the F. Now then, what is a bit less major than that? And now we're going to start saying a bit more minor, because we're moving into minor scales territory. It's Dorian. And so what is my target note there? It's actually this. Remember I said before, this is an important scale to remember because it's what we will use as reference. So if we compare Dorian to this, then this is the note that changed. And basically like that, we move on. And so what have we got? We've got what's less minor than that is actually Aeolian now. Then we've got Phrygian. And then we've got Locrian. So then we will go and highlight this for Aeolian, this for Phrygian, and this for Locrian. So for now, as you practice your scales, as I explained in the lesson, as you learn your octave or your box, make a note of where the key intervals are. So if you study Mixolydian, always know where the flat 7 is.